Mirë se keni ardhur edhe një herë në këto takimet tona. Këtë radhë kena në Sofia Galit Eilat, që është kuratore në origjina e Izraelit, por jeton dhe punon kohët e fundit në Holland. Galit është themeluese e qenës së artin digital në Holland, në Izrael. Ka qenë kuratore kërkuese në muzeun e Indovën, Banabel Muzeum, që janë kuratore e pavionit polak në Bienalin e Venecijës, kuratore në Bienalin e San Paulos, kuratore e salonit në Art Salon në Belgrade.
Yes, the 52, I think. Yes, Belgrade Salon, yes.
Edhe shumë ekspeditore tjerë. So Galit, I'm very happy that you are here.
I'm very happy to be here.
And so we look forward to listen your talk. What you sent us was very inspiring. So I was translating it in Albanian. I was imagining what you are going to say. Of course, I know your practice a bit, but also now that you said that you are not going to show artwork, this is quite interesting. So this is because I remember when you came to Venice and to talk to my students to show some artworks, and we had this problem that we had some very good quality artwork, but not that good quality projector and sound. Especially I remember the work of Jan Bartana, that the sound was not that perfect. Anyhow, so we are here, you are here, and so...
Yeah, I have some artwork, it's not true.
Okay, then, yeah.
First, thank you very much for inviting me. I'm very happy, and nice to meet you. I will be happy to have a discussion, so I can talk, I can deliver, but if you feel that something is not clear, or something you want to stop and to talk and to open it to discussion, I will be happy. Sometimes maybe it will take me from the track of thinking, but anyway, I think it's important. I'm going to talk about a few things that are overlapping. They have their own sense, but at the same time, maybe in the beginning it's not will be clear to all of you why I'm talking about the thing that I'm talking or connecting together. Could be that it will be very clear, sometimes it's not clear, it depends on orientation and how much I'm able to deliver. So if I'm not clear or talking too fast, just stop me, or if you want to ask something. What I'm trying to do, I'm trying to look at the reality today through, in certain way, through the eyes of the 17th century. 17th century and Central Europe, we have few events that we can see today kind of a contra situation to the event of the 17th century. 17th century, it's the end of the 30 Years' War, which in some places it's continued for 100 years in Central Europe, between the Catholic Church, sorry?
No, you need to touch it because sometimes it goes. No, that's okay.
So we have the 13 Years' War that ending. What brought this end of 30 Years' War? It's the Reformation, called Reformation of religion, and it means that the Catholic Church and the Protestant split. In the Netherlands, the place that it happened and took place with the Westphalia Treaty, that end the war, we start to talk about the state, or we start to see the establishment of the state that we know as we know today. It's not start immediately with a democratic or not democratic or fascistic or whatever state, but it starts already with to have a governorship of area without a king. So it was the first time. It's happened in Ireland, it's happened in the Netherlands, when the rich people say, why we need a king? We are rich, we have power, we can have our cantons, so we can run them. So the king was too young so they kick him out. In England, it was another case, but it will also start to, the sovereignty was not in the hand of the king. This is just to open. Why I'm talking about it? Today, we see something, not similar, but we see kind of parallel of events. Religion coming, we can't say that religion disappeared, but we can talk that religion during time lost its power, or its political power, or went to the marginalized. And today we see religion coming to the center. So there is something happened. It's happened at the same time in a few places. We see intervention inside politics. We can talk about ISIS, but we can talk about the evangelists in the Americas, in North America and in South America. We see something that's happening at the same time. Question mark. On the other hand, if we talk about Europe and the state, what we can see that there is the question of sovereignty. Sovereignty is the one that has the power to control. It's changing because according to what Europe developed, basically from the Second World War, it's the European Union. This is a body that governs all the other countries. But what shows us, for example, it's a good example, the crisis with the management with the refugees, we can see that any one of the states took their own decision. So the decision that made about human rights after the Second World War, first we know that they are not respected. Yes, this is not new. But in general, the UN, the EU, had to deal with it together with all the countries that were part of the EU or part of the EU. But what we can see that Germany decided about certain amount, England certain amount, each one of them. So it shows cracks inside what we say the sovereignty in Europe. So, and there are other questions. We can see, for example, we can see, if we talk about ISIS, and I will talk about ISIS, and it will be discussion about art somehow. We can see what is their demand. Their demand is to have the Caliphate, it's to have different system of governing, and we have few systems. We have, for example, in the Emirates, we have the constellation of traditional monarchy. At the same time, we have democracy, but we have also other kind of governing. We have in China one, we have in different places. But we see something that happened in cracking. For example, in what's happening now in the Middle East, we see that what's happened after the Second World War, the partition between the English mandate and the French mandate, and the two mandates, it's collapsing, yes? It's something happened. People are not happy with the borders that was imposed on them. We have new countries, it's new countries, Lebanon, Jordan, Israel, all of them around the 40s. Egypt also was not in the original size. And we see something is working, but also we have beside ISIS and trying to build the caliphate. We see also, maybe you know about the Kurdish organization, mainly female, that fight ISIS, and they're talking about stateless democracy. So we have, and now we have the new party that will open in 2025. They're offering also another model of governing, which is democratic, when the people are in the center and deciding, more close to the idea of democracy, that the domes, the people decide, and not the government decide for the people. So we're talking about other model of representation. When I'm talking about the different models, yes, we can say that each one of them has different model of representation. Now, using politics, we have direct representation, we have different kind of electing, yes, giving you voice to somebody to represent you. Yes, this is what we do, and you have different system how to do it. Looking at the situation in the state, different states, and to see the cracks that happening, we say we have a problem with representation. And we see something else that's happening like around the Western world. It's going right. It's going right off, or good or bad, it's going to one direction in many places. Where I was? Okay, representation. And at the same time...
225.
No, it's not 225. 225 is important, no, it's the representation. So we have the question of representation in terms of governing, democratic system, but at the same time we have problem with representation. We have a problem with representation in art, but we have it in general. And one of the reasons to be aware of it, it's what ISIS produce. I think maybe Adrian will not agree with me, and I will be happy to hear what you think, because it's a lot of discussion among colleagues. The way that they are dealing with the media. People talk about propaganda, it's true, they use it, they recruit a lot of people, but at the same time, it's working in the way that almost we didn't see any artist that understand the media in the way that they understand it. They use the media in a perfect way. They understand what the image does. It's like to take very good student of art school and to put them in front of the computer to generate, I'm not talking now about ideology, I will talk in between. I will intervene because it's related. We see people that really understand the language, the visual language, and the language of representation and what they represent and who are the audience. And they have different audiences. They have the one that they want to recruit. The one that they want to fight. They have different, and it's managing to recruit a lot of people and at the same time to create fear everywhere.
No, I agree. It's just it may be something else, you know. No. Shall art deal with the same questions? I mean,
I will try to answer.
Okay.
I will try to answer fast now, and later it's more constructive. So what I did now is kind of to summarize about the things that I'm going to talk. Now it's going to be more one-to-one. If art, I don't know what art or artists should do, but if we talk about what artists use or occupy during communism, yes, all of them drafted for ideology. At the same time, the American too. We have the abstract, but they also drafted, yes, it also was a certain kind of a message against communism. So we see to history, we see artists drafted to different things, dealing with representation and propaganda. So it means the one that has the ability to use the tools, yes, can use them in different way, because you are the master of using the tools, beside your personal expression. The personal expression coming quite late in art, before it does different kind of function. For example, and this is just before I start, I will say that until the printing media, until the 17th century, art was the one that represent or create the image of the world. It was one medium that present, and I'm not talking about one painting or one photo, I'm talking about image. And when I say image, it's not just one thing that it's framed, it's more related to our collective memory, or if you want, I will go back to Genesis, the Old Testament, that a man create in the image of God. So the image, it's not come of out of blue, it's not a fantasy, it's come from something. So there is an origin. I'm confusing. Now, if I say that the image was in the end of the artist, they represent the world, what we see from the 17th century, from the printing media on, we see other mediums or other hands that represent the world. So I will say the war, yes, it's the war on representation. Who is the one that represent, and the represent, it's represent to us there is not somebody outside that look at us as a theater and we need to represent ourselves. It's how we construct, or who is constructing our image that we have about ourselves. Who is the one that can give us a perspective? And I would say that until the 17th century it was the artist, and I think also later, it's till the 19th century, and then it's gone. It's gone with the speed of producing images, of printing media, of cinema, of many other things. Other images entered. And it's not just the image of something, of a flower, of a man. It's like how the image is made. So one of the war, it's the war between artists, yes, and the media. I would say, this is their war. Before, I quote just the beginning of the text, that it connect. And he asked, what is the role of the artist, like many of us? What is the role of the artist today? You want to ask something? No? No? Okay. But feel free, if I'm talking too fast or unclear, stop me and ask, or you want to have more information, or you think that I'm saying a stupid thing.
No, and just to start this kind of, because you said that you wanted this interaction. I'm just thinking about the image. We are talking about the image of the world, you know. So the question is, do we need now somebody to offer us to show us the image of the world? Because this is quite a fundamental question. So, do we accept that the world offers itself in a plurality of the images, or do we, or are we looking for the image of the world?
Okay, if we talk about plurality, I will prefer that this plurality will be in your hand instead of the hand of somebody else. Image, it's not just one picture that we see it in one dimension. The image of the world can be 3 dimensions, will be 15 dimensions. Yes, but it's who created. My question is, who created the representation and how it works? In the hand of whom and who stand behind it? Who has the power? Who has the power of representation? The one that has the power of representation. Yes, I hope I answered. Yes? So it's not a question one, but I prefer that the artist will deal with it instead of the state, instead of the army, instead of ISIS.
But can artists deal with that without entering in the logic of the power, and then, of course, working with the same logic as the power and like economical power, political power?
I think they're already there. So if they are there, so do something also which is what we see if we talk about the market and enter into politics. So artists always were involved with market and politics. It's not something new. But we have what we call measures. And what's happening now, if in the past, that we know, the modernist past, artists, the market value grow according to the symbolic value. As much exhibition that you had, as much text that was written about your work, in general, your market value will be higher. What we see today, that it doesn't matter. The symbolic value, what replaces him is the market value. So people talk about how much the artist sold the work, and this becomes the symbolic. So the symbolic and the market become one. It's become the value of the market. So doesn't matter how much text somebody wrote, how many exhibitions you had. It's a question how much you sold the work. And how much will come as a synonym of your work. So this is, and in this situation, it's a bit different than the past, that artists were always part of power, abused them, they were draft to power. This is not new, but what we see, which is different, is how much involved and what balance it. Today we feel, the feeling, I think, general feeling, that the art become a tool in the end of 1%, and still we have public spaces and we talk about education, but most of the art produced for very small part of the society. Even that we have with the rhetoric that I'm using, that many curators are using, it's different rhetoric. But this rhetoric, it's empty because it's not exist anymore. It's something that was 20 years ago. But during this time, something happened. Something happened to this public, or our understanding of the public, and this is a question of representation. What happened? It was always like today, or it's something changed. And who will be the one that can show us how to deal with it? And I say it's the artist.
Okay. Let's see how we develop this.
Okay, so before he's an anarchist, he's a philosopher, Italian, maybe you know him, he's write quite a lot and also work with artists. He started with a quote and he developed it. So the quote, it's about a poet that, can you read it? Or
you can read it.
Okay, so he transformed it, and then he put another thing in between his question to the artist before, and he said that the time. What is the time? What is times of need? Time of need, according to Heidegger, it's the time that God is forgotten. Yes, it's not present. This is the time of need. This is, I will say, I'll put it in bracket, and later we will talk, if we have time, about time and messianic time, and how they work with the law of exception, the emergency law that now many countries, I will say something, okay, this will be easy. We have state of exception. Everybody know what does it mean?
Yeah,
I will explain. It's not
better if you explain the rules.
Yeah. Okay, state of exception or state of emergency, according to Carl Schmitt. State of emergency is when the state declare that from this period until this period, the state is under state of emergency. What is allowed to the state is to break the law that they created. Okay, and it needs to be in between this date and another date. And if they want to extend it, it's all the government need to approve it in democratic state. In Nazi time, we know that it's worked differently. But so this is the state. So it means that you have period of time that the law is suspended. In the messianic time, according to Judaism, and this Judaism and Christianity very close to each other. Islam also, but it's less known about messianism in general in the Islam. I will talk about it later a bit. What happened when the Messiah is coming? We call it the messianic time. Agamben and Bourdieu and many wrote about it, and Walter Benjamin. Messianic time, it's a time that it's not just the time suspended, it's everything. Because when the Messiah will come, we don't know how the world will change. It means that also the physical world will change. It's everything changed. So we don't know what will happen, so it's suspension again of the law. So there is a parallel. We can see a parallel between Messianic group, like ISIS, which is, I will call it a territorial Messianism, and between the evangelists, that they have another Gog and Magog, that they intervene, for example, between Israeli and Palestinian. They invest a lot to create the escalation, and at the same time they give a lot of money to the Israeli government, they take, but in their scenario, only a third of the Jew will convert it to Christianity and left. So I don't know why Netanyahu take money from people that want to, in the end, to massacre most of us, but this is how it works. We see those powers, yes? And we see the power of messianism, but at the same time we see one state of the other declaring, it's what French declare, after the attack, it was Belgium declared before and after. It's every time that there are riots in London. So the state declare state of emergency, which allow them to cross out mainly its human rights. So they can search in your house, they can search on you, they can arrest you. So it's most of the law that is suspended, it's the law of the human right. And then I'm going back almost to the beginning. I will come back to here. Before us, the question, yes, what why the poet and why it's the artist, why they need to come and help and do something, yes, in the time of need, what their role. You don't give an answer, and we will try to go through my presentation. He wrote about the situation now. He wrote it in relation to the Middle East. He wrote it before, or under this text. Oh, sorry. Yeah. This text continue with the 2 years that he spent in Cairo teaching, and at the same time in Italy. So he wrote. This is the only the you can find it. This why artists. It will be everywhere that you can read if you like to read. So he asked question about the artist and he talked about the time that lack of solidarity, social solidarity. So we talk about, he don't call it neoliberalism, but he call it like a lack of solidarity. Situation which is bloom, it's blue and yes, so he asked me what does the word mean an artist? Yes, and this is, I will not enter because this can be a week and maybe we will not find a solution or an answer. So basically, why before say it's the artist, and why I say that Adrian asked, what do you want from us? It needs to be the artist, or one of the answers. The question if it's the same artist that was like 30 years ago, I'm not sure. But we can see during the history that the role of the artist or the way how we perceive and call things art change also with the society. One of the big changes of understanding what is an image started before this. It started with the Gulf War, when cameras were attached to a rocket. And we could sit at home and to see how our eyes are going with something which is completely alien to everything we know. The movement, how it's moved, what it does. And we have this experience that we are almost hitting the house. Yes, we are hitting and collapsing. Yes, we saw, it was a possibility to see. I was in Tel Aviv in the first Gulf War, and I can talk about my experience, personal experience. In the beginning, we all were afraid that it would be chemical weapons or biological. So we put the mask and everything, and after a few times we saw that nothing happened, especially the youngest. So we watched television, we had what is called like red alert, and we opened the television because we knew that in the US, the broadcasting, from the camera, that they are shooting to back, because every time there is a system that's called Patriot. Yes, every time that a missile coming, it's a Patriot going out. And so in the American television, not in the Israeli one, they broadcast what on the camera, because the camera used today as a sensor, but also to give a proof of hitting. Yes, it's used for many things. And we could see, we're sitting in Tel Aviv, yes, we are kind of the target, but we also see the weapon. It's not because it's Saddam, but it was another weapon that's going to hit. And we are there. We are subject, but we see this, the relation between what we see on the screen and our physical condition was apart. It was not one. Those development of different technological, beneath surveillance, but tracking, technologies that track our movement, that now we have it at home for many things. You know, it can be, people use it for electricity, you do this, the electricity on, you know, it's all the tracking movement, heat. The other one, it was this spectacle. It's not happened everywhere, but the feeling that the 9/11 happened everywhere. And this is also another question, why? Why something that happened in the US influenced the rest of the world in such a dramatic way? And it's influenced like in banal thing, if we go to the airport, so it's more security, but it's changed something also in the way how we see things. The fantasy to see the twins in fire or collapse was already in the cinema. It was not new. It's produced an image that somehow we knew, or we know, it was familiar. Boris Groys, yes, it's this one. It will be behind, but I will say more or less what he's talking about. Boris Groys and Stockhausen, each one from his direction. Stockhausen, it's a musician. He was in Cologne at this time, dealing with electronic music. Mainly, it's the father of electronic music from the Second World War. And Boris Groys, he's a philosopher, Russian, living between New York and Cologne, Germany, writing a lot about the Russian Avant-Garde. And he wrote about this event. As a media philosopher, he wrote about this event and what's happened to us. And he said, a bit different, like Stockhausen said, Bin Laden, it's the ultimate and the best video artist. Boris Groys said, it is the best and the ultimate, and the image that it creates, the spectacle. So first we have, okay, an image needs to be a spectacle. Why image need to be a spectacle? We don't always look for a spectacle, but this has become a major text, especially in the art, in relation to this event. He said that the artist, and he explained it according to the avant-gardist artist. He explained a few things. One, the artist during the avant-garde, or expectation from the artist, is to be the one that going outside of the line, that have certain powers, that can do things which are not everybody can do. Yes, we have the warrior. This is will be the kind of image of the artist, or it can be the stricter, or it will be a figure that's one that interfere in the system. We have different metaphor and roles, like Duchamp, for example, play one of them. But then he said, Bin Laden, he's the best artist, but not really. He's believe in the image, he know how to work with the image, but he's not iconoclast, because real artists need to be at the same time to believe in the image, and at the same time to deconstruct it, iconoclasm. So here he found the balance between the terrorist and the artist, that the artist also deconstruct what he does. And Bin Laden was kept in this spectacular image. What we can see today, it was a few years ago, and if you remember, so information about or from Al-Qaeda used to come to Al Jazeera on a VHS tape. Something that they found, the image was not great, it was not really a big media operation. But what we can see today, we can see with ISIS, we can talk about that they understand very well the image, and they are iconoclast. They are destroying everything which is related to the past. They are destroying everything that imitates God, I think, in a certain way, but also they're cutting the past. They don't want the past that was created for many years. They want something else. So we can say, we ask, okay, so here we have the answer. Or to come to Boris Groys and to say we have the answer. We have a terrorist that know how to construct an image and know how to destroy the image. So he know how to create a representation, and he know how to open and demolish the representation. I will see if this is... This is part of a film that's called Dial History. I will let it go.
The novel used to feed our search for meaning, but our desperation led us towards something larger and darker. So we turn to the news, which provides an unremitting mood of catastrophe. We don't need the novel.
receive the fuel or you receive the corpse.
Dying is a quality of the air. It's everywhere and nowhere. Men shout as they die, to be noticed, remembered for a second or two. The dead have faces, automobiles. If you don't know a name, you know a street name, a dog's name. He drove an orange Mazda. You know a couple of useless things about a person that become major facts of identification when he dies suddenly, after a short illness, in his own bed, with a comforter and matching pillows, on a rainy Wednesday afternoon, thinking about his dry cleaning.
The film called Dial History, it's quite known among video artists, I think. And he is capturing the kidnap of pilots that started with the PLO, Laila Khaled, maybe the name of this beautiful woman going out of the plane with a gun, stayed for many years, and today she is lecturing. She's outside of jail. She find a deal. It was a period that, like now we have suicide bombers. We had airplanes that were kidnapped like from one airport to the other. It started in Tel Aviv, I think, and with Kozo Akamoto, Japanese, I think from the Red Army that work with the PLO, and it's become kind of an epidemic. It's a lot of plane at the same time. Now we hear here and there, we can't see very much. What he did here, he did two things. One, he put the images of the different kidnapping as a spectacle, which is different spectacle than what we saw in the 9/11. And at the same time, he talked about his position as a writer, as an artist. He, as an artist, what he can do, he can record the television. He is not creating the image. He is recording the spectacle that somebody else and try to narrate it. He asked about his position, like Boris Groys, but from another more melancholic voice. It's a voice, and his voice, it's not a voice that describes what you see. It's a voice that talks about his position as a writer, as an artist, in relation to the role of the terrorist, the one that created the event, the one that hold the camera after, the one that become the glamour, the star. And Laila Khaled became like her way of how she was, the style of her hair become kind of fashionable at this time in certain places, and it's become really a cult around the. It was a lot of money to kidnap an airplane with the people there. And they ask like a lot of money to release the people. It's become like big money, very shiny. It was like instead of to go to the cinema, you open the television, yes, and you follow minute by minute something that happened live. It was new. It was new to everyone. So here already we can see, which is not spectacular maybe as the prince, but it's already an event that we are all sharing, whatever, even if it's not the pilot or the people in the plane are not related, are not our relatives. We all follow it like today, about the Malaysian airplane. So I think many of us know, even we've never been in Malaysia, and maybe we will not be able to enter to Malaysia. Okay, now I will go a few steps back. Carl Schmitt was the Jew of the Nazis. He started before 1933. He was a lawyer that dealt with international law. For a period of time during the war, he was advising to Hitler about international law. In certain moment, Hitler was unhappy with him. He was unhappy with Hitler, but he, in general, support a fascist regime in his political theology. Now, when I say political theology, many philosophers, we can talk about Spinoza, that many refer to Spinoza, that he wrote, it's not his best writing, the best one was about ethic, about political theology. It means the relation between man, state, and God, this triangle, that we are still dealing with it today. Carl Schmitt wrote his political theology later on. The political theology, according to Carl Schmitt, maybe I will say something else, he continued to work and consider one of the most influential political theologists, or the one that dealing with the war, partisans, terrorism. His theory was very important, always the one that, when he was young, it was Walter Benjamin that was writing him. Later on, it was other thing. After the war, he couldn't teach. This was his punishment. He had to be punished. Since he didn't serve Hitler all the time, he was punished that he couldn't teach. And he was a teacher. So he created groups. Groups used to come to him. Now, we know today that politicians, up to now, reading his political theology. The political theology, the way that he explained it, yes, it's the one that can declare state of emergency. He's the one in power. The one that can suspend the law, he's the one in power. The doctrine that we are living today about state of emergency, it's the doctrine of Carl Schmitt. And he dealing with messianism. He'll take theology. Okay, research. Now why we have theology in politics? Somebody want to try to answer? You can say also things that are not fitting. It's good, like to try to think why we're talking about politica and theology. Why we put the two things together?
Because it's instead of God in some way.
Would you like to elaborate? It's good.
It's because we have to believe in something that it is not God anymore, and it's not religion anymore.
So what replace? Yes, I don't know if anymore. Today, maybe 20 years ago. Today, I don't know if, but yes. But yes. You want to continue? According to him, how he built it. If you like, it's.
I don't know his word.
Okay.
I don't know how to.
Okay, so political theology, what he said, the power, I would say it's a bit more extreme that he portrayed, moved from God to the state. Now there is a process. It's not happened at once from God to the state. And the process is the process that I talk about the 17th century. So what is sovereignty? We have a body that he wrote the international law. The international law, where in a moment that we have international law, it means that we have inside law, yes? Because it's international. International to what? It's between different sovereignties, yes? Between different countries, different places, that each one has his own rules. And it can be different. They don't need to be the same. Yes, not all of them need to be monarchy, not all of them need to be democracy. You need international law, but the law that everybody accept, thank you, everybody accept to be able not to fight all the time. Now, those laws, it's after a war, yes, that people massacre each other. we can think about different kind of other situation that people, because of their religion, kill each other for 30 years. And Europe suffered. It was in parallel, it was the Black Flu. So together, the plague, it was a loss of a lot of people. Now, what happened there? The king in the Netherlands, for example, yes, kicked out. Also in England, we can think about Hobbes, what he wrote, the way that he wrote. The power were delegate. We can talk about the past, how it go, how sovereignties go. We have God. This is the total divine power. The divine power was delegated to the king or the Caesar that the Caesar had connection with God. Yes, it was not separated. It's not went to the process of secularization. It was the same line. So from God, which is more abstract, it's become a person. Maybe not always the Caesar was a person, but it's become a person. Then to the king, then to the prime minister. Somebody needs to take this position, yes, of the head of the pyramid. The power, the way that society works with power, and this is what political theology will say, that we have the same system that we had before the 17th century, but a secular one. But it's working in the same way. The same rules are activating the society and working inside the society. And today, with return of religion, it's become to the discussion. Now, most of the leaders today read Carl Schmitt. So it's not about the political theology, it's like the, the basic of to understand. You need to understand that. You don't need to agree, but you need to understand his standpoint to be able to see how he developed the relation of power. He believed in this power. He said, he against Carl Schmitt, like, and this is quite strange, like a Marxist, don't believe or against liberalism in general. Liberalism, to his opinion, it's the weakest way of governing, and he wrote many years ago, together with the dialogue that he had with Jakob Taubesch, that it will lead to what we have now, neoliberalism. He will try to push, always in his writing, to have power, someone that know what to do and tell others what to do. Yeah, it's not fascism, it's not need to be a concentration camps, but it's to have someone that lead the people, because people don't know, of course, how to do it or to do it for themselves. There is an Israeli scholar that he described the divine power, or I would say the one that believe in catastrophe, it's the one that believe in miracles. If you believe in miracles, so you believe in catastrophe. If you believe that the catastrophe will come, so probably you also believe in miracles, which is related to a power which is outside of our power. He wrote, this philosopher, Adi Ophir, he described the Old Testament when people of Israel left from the beginning, from the Genesis until the time that they left Egypt. Basically this time of the year. Yes, April. This is the spring. That they move and walk 40 years in the desert. And the way that he described it, it was, he said, all this process, it's a process to create a state. Basically, we know that they went in the desert to create the first city. Or it's not the first one made by Cain, but to build a city. So all this process was a process to build a state. So what we describe in the process, it's the power of God and how it's disappearing. We have Moses. We have that God. I'm sorry if I say God and it's like completely not kind of respectful, or that God create miracles. So it's fire, again, spectacle, wind, I think, different things that influence. Now God need to make miracles, and miracles are spectacular. But God disappearing in the story. In the story, if we read the story, it's one time when He opened the Dead Sea and people can cross, and that's it. We don't see God. God don't exist there. It's everything by the people, and this is a question quite similar to the way that Carl Schmitt talked about sovereignty, that it's moved from God to the people. So the power, and this is a question about the power of the state. The power of the state to create catastrophe, but at the same time to come and to help to the citizens. And we can think about different kind of things. We can think about what's happened for example, in Japan with the atomic, I don't know how you call it. Yeah, it was not a bomb. It was a nuclear station. Sorry.
Fukushima.
Yeah. Yes, Fukushima station. Sorry. Yes. This is a catastrophe, and it's a catastrophe that will stay for quite long. But the state also coming, yes, and running to help to the people. But they create it. It's not created by nature. It's not something that grow and happen because what? Because of God? No. It's happened because it's happened because somebody didn't maintain it as needed. And we can go to some very more simple things. When I will say if I may say, like the quarries, yes, the people working without in Kosovo without protection. It's a catastrophe. The amount of people that become ill, and the state also coming and helping. They are ill. There is cancer. We need to do something with it. So we have this one that is responsible to you. So it's responsible in two ways: one to distract, and one to help. I will run a bit, this I think explain. This is the book that I'm referring. I want now to focus more about the image. I gave kind of a long introduction. This is Harold Pinter. Harold Pinter was English poet and actor. He died around 10 years ago. He also got the Nobel Prize. I took a very small part of his Nobel Prize speech. You will see him sitting on a wheelchair because he was with the cancer already, so he couldn't go to Sweden to get the prize. So it was a record that was broadcast. I took a very small part of it. And
I quote Neruda because nowhere in contemporary poetry have I read such a powerful, visceral description of the bombing of civilians. I have said earlier that the United States is now totally frank about putting its cards on the table. That is the case. Its official declared policy is now defined as full spectrum dominance. That is not my term, it is theirs. Full spectrum dominance means control of land, sea, air and space, and all attendant resources. The United States now occupies 702 military installations throughout the world in 132 countries, with the honourable exception of Sweden, of course. We don't quite know how they got there, but they are there all right. The United States possesses 8,000 active and operational nuclear warheads. 2,000 are on hair-trigger alert, ready to be launched with 15 minutes warning. It is developing new systems of nuclear force known as bunker busters. The British, ever cooperative, are intending to replace their own nuclear missile, Trident. Who, I wonder, are they aiming at? Osama bin Laden? You? Me? Joe Dokes? China? do know is that this infantile insanity, the possession and threatened use of nuclear weapons, is at the heart of present American political philosophy. We must remind ourselves that the United States is on a permanent military footing and shows no sign of relaxing it. Many thousands, if not millions of people in the United States itself are demonstrably sickened, shamed and angered by their government's actions. But as things stand, they are not a coherent political force yet. But the anxiety, uncertainty and fear which we can see growing daily in the United States is unlikely to diminish. I know that President Bush has many extremely competent speechwriters, but I would like to volunteer for the job myself. I propose the following short address, which he could make on television to the nation. I see him grave, hair carefully combed, serious, winning, sincere, often beguiling, sometimes employing a wry smile, curiously attractive, a man's man. God is good. God is great. God is good. My God is good. Bin Laden's God is bad. His is a bad God. Saddam's God was bad, except he didn't have one. He was a barbarian. We are not barbarians. We don't chop people's heads off. We believe in freedom. So does God. I am not the barbarian. I am the democratically elected leader of a freedom-loving democracy. We are a compassionate society. We give compassionate electrocution and compassionate lethal injection. We are a great nation. I am not a dictator. He is. I am not a barbarian. He is. They all are. I possess moral authority. You see this fist? This is my moral authority. And don't you forget it.
What he's doing in this video, especially in the last part that he offered to write the speech for Bush. Somebody want to try to understand? Using in very rich language, yes, so it's very nice to hear him. But what he's doing a few things in this small speech that he offered to write to Bush.
I think he's talking about how an individual's interpretation of morality can translate to whatever they're in charge of.
Yes, but he also very specific. He put there are two main figures: him as Bush and somebody else.
And the other.
Yes, but what it's about moral. But what happened with this moral?
Well, our morals are better than theirs because we have a better God and a right God, and I mean, of course, everybody thinks that, but stepping back to the third person, it's down to the interpretation of whatever you think is right.
He taking it. I think and then now I'm thinking about art. Yes, now I'm thinking about the language that he used and how he explained why his God is better. Somebody want to answer? We have the talk that he gave, it's about abstract and figurative. This is what he is doing in his metaphor. He talk about God, or he talk about his state, yes? Both killing people, because the norms, because the rules. We need to accept that even ISIS have their own rules. Yes, it's not happening like this, it's happening according to the rules that they believe in. So in this sense, he considered them already as a state, which is not true. This is one thing. But the other thing, he said, we are sending people to kill them with, I think, with a shot or with electric chair. And you taking the knife and cut the throat. What we have here, we have what Benjamin will say, like, this is the science of modernity, that we have distance and we have abstract. In art, in general, I don't think it's ever convinced, and many people will admit, abstract, it's better than figurative. Figurative, it's a bit, I don't know, I would say undeveloped. Yes, it's a bit barbaric. Concept art, abstract. This is something that we show who we are. And it's very much in the center of Europe. As much as you go northern, you have art which is more dealing with the conceptual part. Sorry, why are you laughing? Shall I read the class?
No, I was laughing because I study middle and conceptual art, especially in Milano, is very powerful. And when I came here in Albania, and I see that it's different kind of people working and how they work. And well, I was thinking to myself, and when I was in Stockholm, I see that they are this kind of narrative photography, especially photography, narrative photography that is very useful, used in their art fairs and other things. So I'll say, making my thinking.
During my talk, like
yes.
you travel to, I'm saying things to working in different places. I'm working in Sweden and other places. And I said a bit in cynical way, I don't think it's 100%, and this is not what I think. But this is what he is doing in his talk. He compared one system that the value, the ethical and the moral value are higher because you don't see blood. And we know that through the development of technology, of medicine, today operation, many of them made by a computer. The doctor are not touching anymore the body. And we have enough, injection that the patient will not feel the pain and the doctor will not feel that he's hurting someone. Imagine that someone need to work with the body, with the living and to make an art operation when somebody is shouting like it's hurt. So one of the things that we can talk about them, it's the invention, of anesthesia materials that first create or let the doctor to come to the body, to the human body, as he comes to a machine. Its function as a machine, he sees it as a machine. Whatever he cut, take out, or bring back, the patient shouldn't feel it. So it's create distance. This distance we appreciate. We also appreciate the pilots. We also appreciate the pilots that can push a button. It's very clean way of killing. Is to push a button instead of to be in the battlefield. Now, if we think about today, where are the fights happen today? Where we have war?
Drones.
Sorry?
Drones.
Drones? Yes, but why drones? Why the use of drones?
Because you sit in the control room with a,
Yes, but the drones, it's not really help. You don't need it, or you can use drone in the desert, yes? Or in the open field. But there is no benefit to use drone in an open field than to use, other kind of plane. In the city, yes. In the city, you need to have a drone, a small one, to be able to operate. Yes, to go from places to, and we know today it's used also in cinema. We have a lot of filmmakers that use drones for if you want to enter through a window to the room, so you don't need a huge crane anymore. You can do it in a very easy way with a drone. But this is developed out of fighting inside the city. If we look at most of the war today, most of them, they are civil war or inner war and happening in the cities. They're not happening anymore in the front. The front, it's where the past was the back. So this is change first. but also the way the technology that we are using. Yes, we have this distance, and we use the technology. And this is one of the things, and now I will touch the way that ISIS are working. I will skip this video, maybe I will come back later. It's a journalist that lived with them for a while and wrote a book about ISIS, about how they work, and I think it's important to listen to him. I will jump, because this one, it was too heavy. It's okay, we have time, no? So I will jump to another file. By the way, I wanted to talk also about Russian Avant-Garde, but I don't think I will have time, so I will say it and then I will move to ISIS. Still, we started with a Russian, where is the, yeah. So very quick. Everybody know the black square? Or I need to find an image of the black square?
Malevich.
Yes. Everybody know?
I think yes.
Yes, okay, good. Did you hear the news like that were like 2 months ago with the Malevich?
No.
Where the black square is coming from and why? The black square, what they found today under Röntgen, they found a racist joke. And I think I can make it bigger. I don't know if you can. You can read it maybe. Okay. They found in the X-ray, yes, there was found a sentence. And the sentence says something like that the nigger in a black cave can't catch each other, no? Or something like this. You remember the sentence exactly?
No.
Yeah, but it's something that the nigger in the black cave can't... Now, this sentence, it's here. He used to, and this is not, that he used to buy those comics or funny notes, and he enjoyed them. But also this was probably his inspiration, and this is like the work of the artist. Yes, this is the contemporary art. So there is something that figure out about all this mystical thing around the black square, that the black square was a way how to cover something which is completely different. It's completely referring to a joke that he read in a magazine of somebody that he liked. It was an artist. It was an artist, Italian artist, but at the same time that worked with monochroma, and this is not the only one, I don't think I have here more, but you can find easily. You can go to Hyperallergic, the one that know, you can read about the article and links to other magazines that describe most of the Russian scholars that were answer yes to interview denied. But it's happened. It happened and it was a Röntgen, but they can't. It's the narrative, all the narrative that they built during the years, it's this like collapse. Collapse with a very small detail that the Röntgen show that behind the black square there is a story about black Negro people in the cave trying to run to catch each other. And of course they can't because it's dark.
But can you really destroy the whole narrative of avant-garde with this?
No, it's not the avant-garde, it's around the black square. And now
Yes,
around the
but I mean,
avant-garde,
it's part of it.
around the avant-garde, the myth already destroyed. Around the Russian avant-garde, the end of the Russian avant-garde, and in the bourgeois a tradition. In the Russian avant-garde that work in the beginning with the government and support, they start to fight each other. And in the end, it's end with in the market. It was not
like everything. I mean, also like all the revolutionary movements of the 20th century and in the market, you know.
Yes. So yeah. No, but we say the Russian avant-garde. We say it's artists that fight for a political change, good or bad. Now you will say, why I should work for political change? But we all take them as a model. We take them as a model, and something very interesting. The question of representation. Just one thing, small thing. In painting, like the history of painting, full with representation of God. How God is represented most of the time? In what way?
I mean, Catholic or
In Catholic, but in general, I would say Catholic more, because the question
Catholic is like the old man with beard.
There is something which is more specific when we talk about God. I don't have the image, but you can find. The hand of God. You have the right hand, which is the strong one, and this left hand, which is not so strong, I think. This is the difference. And you have the hands of God, the hands coming through the sky. We have hands everywhere. Now think about the symbol during the communist time. What was there? It was the hand of the worker. Who has the hand? Who showed the power? And this is, we talk about how iconography and representation shift. And if we want to talk about the sovereignty that secularized, yes, from God to the hand of the party. Or if we want to talk about messianism or revolution, which consider as one. The running to a revolution, it's like a moment of a change. It will be considered and will be read as a moment of the Messiah. Yes, the Messiah should come. This is like the parallel in general. So this is just to read, and to read it, and it's Susan Bach-Morse and many others read the Russian Avant-Garde to Walter Benjamin, to Messianism. And Marx and etc. Marxism in general, but I don't want to enter to it because this is too complex. I want what I would like to do is to focus a bit, and I hope I have time. What? No?
Yeah, you have like.
I can continue. No, just it's not too. People will feel uncomfortable. Sorry, it was just too heavy to. Import, so it's too small to read. But I will want to show you how things are working today. I will show different analysis from different group interests that analyze what ISIS producing. The question of the origin of ISIS, I think you can find, I don't know, there are a lot of writing. It's one of the main I think subject of news today, or one among the. Just a second, I need to find it here. And different group from. Yeah, this is one of them. I will show like 2 examples, but I think it will be enough. So it's working between academies. To intelligence, to artists, to media analysis, that all of them trying to understand why it works, how it works. In some newspaper in the beginning wrote that the propaganda is the same like the Nazi propaganda, but if you compare Leni Riefenstahl with what they're producing, it's not working. It's not the same way. The Nazi didn't or never showed in their propaganda the killing. Yes, it was not there. It was the utopia that they show. They also show utopia, but not to us. There is part utopistic in the propaganda, but this is for somebody else. It's the one that's trying to recruit. And there you have even a medical system for free. In this sense, I will say one thing, and I will not talk about it. Like we see what's happening in the Middle East, and one of the way to read the narrative is to read it that the American never stopped to look for the communists. If we look at the countries that attack by the US, it's a country that socialism was the strongest one, which is Iraq, and later on Syria, the Ba'ath Party. Historically, it was the Communist Party. So there is another narrative that it's there. And also, if one really focusing about ISIS, what they promise, I'm not talking like what they promise equal society for Muslim, it's true, and certain kind of Muslim, but this is what they offer. They offer kind of utopian collaborative society. Okay. I will go. Okay, so this is the military academy. There are different. Now, in general, why it will be also a bit complex to talk about visual and Islam in kind of common knowledge. I can.
Why is it difficult?
Yeah, yes. Why there is something that it's not fitting really.
Yeah, because we know
There is no visual image.
there is no.
Yeah, it's more abstract or ornament or geometric. Like this is like abstract geometric. We can see a lot of coming from the Middle East. Yes, also Judaism. There are different reasons, but one of them it's not.
Iconoclastic, I mean,
Yeah.
basically.
Yes. Yeah. Not to imitate.
Never-
Yeah, there are two reasons why, but yes, it's on iconoclasm. It's two religions that are iconoclastic.
It's more like in relation of the image, like they do not glorify or they do not adore the image, you know. So but in this case, they are just using it. So they are not like praying in front of this image.
No, there is. It's very interesting. Through Walid Raad, he working with the shadows a lot. And one he sent me to read, I don't think it's a fatwa, but it's like a smart man, the religion, a Muslim, that student asked him, how we working with the camera, what we can do, can we produce images? And that through digital camera, and there is a question about the shadow, it's forbidden, what it's allowed and not allowed to do. So they develop a way how to go around because we are living in a world of images. We produce images more than ever. So one of the things, it's a paganic, not to create something that you work, yes, and this is coming from ancient time, and not to compete with the creation of God. This is the other thing. So as a creator, you don't create, so in Islam many times, the work, it's unfinished. If you have a carpet, so it will be one thing which is not perfect, and it will be intended not to compete. In Judaism, it's similar, a bit different, but the rules are the same. You not create an image because it's coming from paganic time, and you shouldn't create or compete with God, with the creation of God. Which the different interpretation, but will be the main one. But here we have somebody else. We have something else. We have a group that's working with and producing them, and producing the spectacle, and etc. So according to the past, they have something else. But the question, how much past? I didn't say Muslim, and I don't think it's, I'm not sure it's even relevant today to talk about ISIS as a religion, one religion, a movement. It's messianic. They believe in the Mahdi, that he will come. Just a second. I will show you a few ways how image analysis. There are different ways how to. So, what we will see through the media and through also iconography. A selection, for example, of everything that produce motives that. What are the motives they are using? What kind of? Because one of the things, the question, how they recruit people, what they do in their recruiting footage or messages that work with mostly. I think European kids, boys and girls. For example, from Gotland, it's the percentage of young people that going to fight with ISIS, not against, is super high. And it's coming from welfare country, education, tolerance in different way, and the question how it works and why it works. So we know that they're using social media, but those movements always, in history, used social media. So if it was not electronic, but still it was from one community, it go to the other. Yes, it was like two people that this information moves. So we have the media. So this exists as a system but what they promise in terms of personality. So here it's like a collection of different things that you see that there is not one line that produce. And by the way, when we, like in general, talking about ISIS, there are many groups outside, never met anyone from ISIS, and they ISIS. The idea of ISIS is already there, that they can claim certain kind of working as a shaheed witness to society. So each one of the the color green, but I think it's also familiar here to the Bakta sheet. It's how the graves are covered. It's also the color of the PLO. The green color, it's as a symbol in different society, and also different sect in Islam. So we will see it repeating quite a lot, but then it's changed between different images that are usually they are quite ugly, I will say. Yes,
Yeah,
it's not
kitschy.
really.
I didn't expect. I'm not familiar with the ISIS images, but they are quite kitschy.
They kitsch. They look like kids made them. No, it's really like untalented. You can say what you think. We can. Please, Adrian.
No, I just said that. I mean, I was not expecting beautiful images, but these are like quite kitsch. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, this is one of the imams that.
That's
you know his. Yeah.
Cute.
Yes, the mirror, but he's a very, like you can find a lot of his. He's not ISIS, but he's talking about the Mahdi. He is the one that escalating with other groups the end of the world and the change that will come through the new one. So you see here, this is the images that people that recruit to ISIS, that produce, which we will say like it's what they're not good, but what we will see slowly that start to look like the computer games, like the first screen of the computer games, that you have the layers. So slowly we start to see it. And this is something that also we know that any one of the armies, yes, if it's the IDF or the American one, producing games, sometimes it's reenactment of the fight in Fallujah, yes, for example, Counter-Strike, I think, that people can take an identity of somebody else. So this is something that you see it start to look like cheap, and then it's going higher. I will jump to something else. Yeah, it's
trying to imagine how higher it could go.
Okay.
Because actually, I mean, from the image building point of view, I mean the images of people killing, I mean, they are quite strong and quite clean and quite well constructed. I mean, these are like Chinese.
This is beginning. But you analyze everything. Yes, the banners, and there are certain motifs that repeating. Now I will show you one. I want to show you another university how they use digital tools to analyze. So it's not the image that you recognize; it's how it's used. But before I will show you just Adrian, did you see ever how the magazine that they are producing look like? Okay, so I will show you. So then you see the difference. So then it will be an image.
Where have you taken this photo? From internet?
So what?
This image from internet?
This one, the one that was the file.
In general, the image, where they came from?
Okay, you have different here. This is a printed. It's digital, but also printed. This is a magazine. This is their magazine. They have issues with the subject. Most of the material coming to Twitter, coming to Facebook, and dark web, or deep web, or as you want to call it. So they're coming usually to digital, but not always. When they are on the ground, they produce their own aesthetic. So this is the magazine that they produce. Each time there is another topic. And I think it's designed okay. Also the topics.
Contemporary art.
Sorry?
It could be a contemporary art magazine.
Yes, it could be a contemporary art magazine. So you have also the topics are, it's called How to Work in Society, so it's a message to the soldiers. It's how to deal with women and law and what they're allowed to do and not, but also politics. So they are kind of ping pong between the whole of the West, how to deal and read the images or the strategies of ISIS, and on the other side they do the same and answering. They are all the time in discussion with the analytic and the intelligence everywhere. They are all the time in discussion with them. It's not that they are not ignoring. They know that they are the subject of those research. Did you see ever what the US produces a contra? Because the US also producing like contra videos. I have one. It's horrible to compare. So among the believer are men, the world of enemy, and then there are articles. Different, and then you have the beautiful images of recruiting, and then like after Paris, you have the images of the martyrs. It's a bit heavy, so it's meant for print. And as you see, it's in English, so it's produced in 3 languages. And I think the design is working. Also, they invent here these small things instead of this ornamentica in the text. So this is how they sell themselves to their believers. Yes, this is like the community magazine, if you will, or something that produced in the neighborhood to the same people, same socio-political class. I can show another one just to, I have few, but just that you have, it's not just one case. They also talk just terror, they talk about terror. This is the Mahdi. No, it's not. All of them, it's from the, I think the past few months, yes? So they are not old. I download them from, like the latest one, I think that it's available online. I downloaded it, it's 16 something. Again, the one they have one image from Paris. Maybe I will look at it. It's quite fantastic. It's really like an image that going from a film out of this massacre. Okay, they're already targeting. This one will be about the U.S. together with Saudi Arabia. So this is the target this time. It's Bush with his collaborators. So this one, when it's sent and people downloading, it's already a message what they need to do. Who is the enemy? Who should be attacked? Without any direct communication, it's there already, the message and how it works. Now, we have, there is a French philosopher, and this is a group I think that offer the most interesting analysis. I don't think I can talk for really long. So this is the virtual Caliphate. It's a group of scholars, many of them are Muslims, that are using French philosopher Malul. He was a Christian, he died. He worked around propaganda, and he had very interesting way how to read propaganda. Because he's not talking just about the surface, he's talking about the user, the one that look at the propaganda, not about it. You don't read only what is there. He reads the need of the one, and he always say that it need to be something that answers the receiver. So without the receiver to understand who is standing there, propaganda will not work. You can do a propaganda day and night, but if people are not, it's not touching a certain, it can be ideology or needs, it will not work. So it always depends on how you work with people and how you read their needs. So they're working with it through the analysis. And here you can see that like the images that they take from inside ISIS, that they show the Caliphate as a place with a lot of water. We know where it is, yes, it's white desert, but with a lot of water, good services, for kids. It's promised a lot. They promise a lot of things. So they. The army, or most of the departments that dealing with the visual analysis, working on the surface, what is there, what they did, they talking with the content. They're working with what is promised, and it's promised something that we will say like welfare state. Yes, the state will support you. If you believe in the state, if you obey the state, you will get whatever you need. And this is a question that we can go back to the sovereignty. What the relation between the sovereignty to his subjects. I will go through it, and I'm not sure I can talk more. So you can find a lot of scheme like this to understand how the messages, so we don't deal with the images, it's also the messages, how they work, how they produce, and which media office. Because one of the things that the US, for example, announced that they kept the one that, the media master. But it's clear that it's one media master, it's not enough, it's more than one that produce the images. Do you have any questions? Because my voice soon will not.
No, I'm just trying to understand, where you want to put the artist in your I mean, in the whole discourse.
Mm-hmm.
How do you see the? I mean, it's like a competitor of this. Are we trying to reach the same thing but with different means and through different ways, or we can also ignore each other, or go for other?
Or do we need a military wing?
What we need?
Do the artists need a military wing today?
Military?
Yeah.
Wing.
Wing. Ah, wing. Okay, military
Since
wing.
they are the terrorists and are using media, as you said, very well.
I will say
do the
something.
artists and media need a military wing to face them and fight them?
I don't know, but I can imagine that there are more artists that serve in the army that we know, in general. So I don't think army and the tools that artists are using already for a long time are coming from the food chain of army. There are two main industries that develop electronic or surveillance or optical. It will be medicine, yes, science. It will be computer games and army. And those coming, the camera, whatever kind of technology that we are using, coming through this triangle. Yes, this is the holy. So I think the tools that you are using already, yes, you embedded to work in certain way, and it's developed for certain kind of use. And we also, okay, I will say something else. I will start maybe in history. War and art always had a relationship, good and bad, but always the heroes were the one that was sitting, or the sovereignty was the one that's sitting, and the painter was represent him. The war, the great wars, all of them are painted. Napoleon, from whatever we know through history, art and war were in relations. Good relations, bad relations, but in dialogue. And today we see it, but we see it a bit more, because the art is using the same tools that develop and using the battlefield. We are also using it, and also those tools use on us, yes? So if in the past we couldn't think that a tank will come to the city, it happened. But in general, so a drone that's used now in the battlefield, we will sit in the city, and many other kinds of technique.
No, but do you think that, let's try to put it in another way. Do you think that in meantime that people are like bombing other people and producing images of this process? I mean,
but this
the
is started,
propaganda, and somebody decide to make a drawing somewhere, and to make a drawing of a cloud, and this is his power. So the power is that in this period of war, I don't want to deal with that. I leave people produce images of war. I leave people influence. And then I don't want to influence anybody. Then this is my power. So my weakness.
So stop to do images.
No, my weakness is my power. No, I want to deal with the cloud. That could be.
You want to do?
I want to deal with the cloud, so I make the drawing of the cloud, and this is my power.
So I will tell you something about clouds.
I mean, cloud, I'm saying just a leaf or whatever.
This is how
I mean, I'm not talking about the cloud.
Forensic architecture can figure out how a missile that came to Gaza through the cloud that came after. Yes, the cloud that came after the bomb hit the house. It was nothing. It was a year after. They collect thousands of images. Eyal Weizmann, yes, out of the cloud that come out. They create the image and they knew the route. So it would be hard to go out because the destruction that ISIS create, it's not less than what Saddam or others created. Yes, they don't create more destruction. They show us, and this is the power. They show us I know totally what you mean, and this is a bit like frightening, the whole thing. But I'm trying to say that do we have to enter absolutely in this logic and trying to compete like Bush was doing with in the discourse of Noble, so you are the good leader and they are the bad leader, your God is good, their God is bad, you are right, they are wrong, and you are stronger, and then it's the fight. Or you decide, this is a freedom, so this is power, that you want to deal with something else. And that, this is problematic. I'm not saying that this is easy, but you mentioned Agamben before, and another concept that it really interests me from Agamben is the fact when he talks about the potentiality yes,
of not doing something.
Yes, this is. I agree with you. I think it's fantastic, the potentiality and the potent and what is potent and what not. I agree, but of course you will say it also in the society that overproduce. But it's work very much with the desire of the Freudianic desire. Yes, as much as you have a lack, you want more. So it's working in this kind of parallel, and it didn't say not to do, but it's to keep. What the essence and not to give everything. Yes, this is the potentiality that all the time can come. So because the power to do things show that you are potent. Yes, you don't have the power anymore. You show all your tools or whatever, how you want to describe it. I agree with you. I don't think that the artists need to do something. Yes, I don't think that they need to go to a war. I think we are in a war. Yes, so we don't have really a chance to choose. And we can say we have attack of images. Yes, we can use this language that we use already. We use the military language in our everyday life. And we have attack of images everywhere that we go, whatever we will open. We are having those things that repeating themselves. And there is a question why images and not sound and other things, other senses, yes? It's another area to explore. But I will say that you don't have a way out. They are appropriating whatever that artists build up to now, including artworks. They're using artworks in their media. They appropriating, putting in, and creating as a background to do what they do. So in a way, they don't let you, yes, to continue to say, I ignore, it's not my things, because they come to you and they use it. They use what you create for other means. And this is, I think, leave us in a very interesting way to understand how the use of image transform how the rules, and then I will go to the state of exception, yes? At the same time with Messianic group, coming at the same time, working on two different things. This is Agamben, by the way, you do this comparison between the two things. And at the same time, we have those images that are basically portray the sovereignty that in the past it was God. So artists had to paint God in some religion, not all of them. And then it's secularized, I can't talk anymore, secularized to the society and to represent it and to work with it. So we don't have representation of God, but we have representation of everyday life and the life that we want, which are not, we're not going to have them, of course. And the potentiality of Agamben coming also in relation to the spectacle. Yes, the spectacle is to show that you are potent, yes, or potent or impotent. If you can do or what you can't do. The one that showed the.
So this is the question: can we make a step out of the logic of the spectacle? You know, or that is the only logic possible, and we have to fight that in one side or in another. But we cannot escape that logic. You know, so this is the question. So can art offers an alternative to this logic? Or we have to fight this battle, everybody, you know, like... I mean, saying art doesn't mean anything, because they are using their art, I'm using my art, Erzen is doing this, Sokol is doing this. So, I mean, it doesn't say that art is like one category and then the terrorists are another category. I mean, they are artists with terrorists, they are terrorists, you know, in the art world.
Is true history of
art.
artists.
So this is, I'm just trying to figure out if is I mean what we at least consider like art activity of the 20th century. So I mean you talked about avant-garde like in Russia, but of course we have like modernism in Europe. We have I mean Picasso, Braque, Mondrian, you know, and all these things. And that somehow also, even like futurists, for example, they were very active in Italy during fascism, but somehow they were like in creating a kind of alternative way of thinking the society compared with the mainstream, the cultural mainstream of Italy, for example, of the beginning of the 20th century. So somehow they were quite renovating also the language and the aesthetic of the time. I don't see personally, I don't see these images as like the futurists of.
No, and I don't think they try to.
So my question is like, can you as an artist, as somebody who deals with the images and kind of problematize the images, work in a level which is not this of the propaganda anymore, or I mean your only one destination is propaganda?
Okay, I can tell you what I think.
Yes.
It's not will be the ultimate answer. I think that will be very difficult to. In general, we are contaminated by images, yes, from different places. It's already destroyed, like what we call the image. Yes, we have many that are produced, and also we need to be very careful. And I think young people can recognize quickly who is the bad, who is the good, and to what they are related. I'm not sure I can do it. They grow up into it, to certain kind of sensitivity. Now, the role of art changed by time. I'm not sure that art, it's the one that will do the especially today, like social change or any fight, can fight for something, maybe fight for their existence. This is, I think, will be the first thing that I will, yes. But then in the question, I can go back to about solidarity. How artists will fight together for their existence if they can't work together. how this fight going to work. Who will unite them? Who will unite them? Yes, that they will be able, instead of work as individuals. Now, maybe something that yes, okay. We move from one. You mentioned modernism. Yes, modernism. It was a system to division. Yes, to divide individual, to divide knowledge. This is still how our universities work. Our university, we have units, and we have a lot of knowledge. Like for example, we stay with ISIS. Yes, so you need to know to work and to understand. You need to know anthropology. You need to know history. You need to know theology. But they work in groups, each one by itself. And we see it in many other problems in society or area that the knowledge that each one is dealing, it's not connected. It stays with their own discipline. And this is one of the things that we are lacking. And we have it also in the art scene. Especially, we can talk about from more social system to the neoliberal. And the neoliberal, it's about the individual, it's about the computer, it's about you and your mirror. Yes, and this is when we go back to Narcissus, yes, the one that sees itself all the time, because this is what technology gives us, yes, it's push and pull, it's very simple. It's not just this image, it's the image that all the time gives us feedback of our present. So I'm not sure that art, but I think if there is someone that can work in the term of to heal, I'm talking about healing, the image that we lost for something, yes, it's the artist will be the one. Which kind of artist? I don't know, yes, if it's the one that will study in art school or the one that will study, I don't know, something else. But I think this capacity because artists also through this Renaissance up to today have the capacity to jump between things, to connect things, sometimes through ignorance, sometimes through knowledge. So maybe this is the...
More questions?
I'm not an artist, so I cannot give you the answer, of course, but I'm a journalist.
Yes.
What I do is I read and I follow all day long what's happening, the developments. What I've learned from ISIS especially is that it's true what you're saying, that they used the propaganda, of course, but that's not their main weapon. Their main and strongest weapon is that they believe in a prophecy.
Yes, in the Messiah, yes.
Yeah.
Mahdi.
Yeah.
And you need to say that it's not really the Sunni, historically, that we have a phenomena, that it's phenomena of our day.
So they believe in a prophecy, that
territorial
prophecy, that Sham, that country, that land, it's where they're going to fight the good, going to fight the evil, so on and so forth. Most of them, what we're dealing here with, so what you're doing an art. For instance, we do an art, but what they do, they got a system. They have know-how on brainwashing people. Now, what you're dealing here, it's the books and the whole system on how to take a person and start feeding him with that ideological, what you call?
Yeah, but you have two systems. First, you need to bring this person close to you, yes?
Absolutely.
If you want.
No, that's, yeah, exactly.
And, yeah.
But there was not, I mean, what we're talking, we're jumping here. This is not the first step. First step, it's way back. First step is not the propaganda on TV or internet. First step was when they come with the money, build those mosques. Before they build the mosques, they build
they only destroy it.
No, exactly. No, I'm talking about what I saw happening here, in my country, in the region. They invested on printing houses. They print. If you look at the books that we print, the countries, the normal, And what they print is like 10 times more of that, and they give it for free. Now, when I said know-how, that means they know exactly what to print, how to print it, how to give it to you, and then you get brainwashed. Now, once you get brainwashed, you believe in the prophecy, of course, and then you believe, and you want to die, you want to put that jacket and kill yourself, because you believe that the end is coming. Most of them believe that the end of this is coming.
Yes.
So they're very successful, absolutely, they're very successful on that. Now, when you say art and media, as I said, they could be tools, of course, and they are very important tools, but they're not the main weapon. Again, I believe their weapon is the belief on that prophecy. And that's what makes them believe that land, they should be part of this war, because this war will change, will win good against evil, blah, blah.
The belief, yes, in something is strong, but this is not, and this is, we have the time that we see different groups, yes, we see them, the settlers in Israel, yes, they want to build a third temple. At the same time, the evangelists in Brazil or Latin America want to do the same. For different reasons. They have different reasons. One, it's clear that they want to build the temple, they want it to be destroyed. Yes? So they want the end of time and new time. They're working the same. It's a phenomena. It's a bigger phenomena than ISIS. And in this sense...
But can we say that, I mean, we are now entering this discussion of ISIS, which is like, of course,
it's not
bigger,
ISIS.
but I mean in general. I mean, there is also a consciousness that the West civilization is finishing. So, I mean, they have like this kind of mission to replace the power of a civilization that is losing power.
Yeah, it's a sovereignty.
So it's not about just their own thing, you know. So it's not about a group of people that they want to create in their village something, you know, which is ideal. No, it's about taking over and
reappropriating. One of the things that they're offering, if you ask what they're offering, so it's not so much to the one that's coming from outside, but the local one. The offering, I started to talk about it in the beginning, it's to be the owner of the land without to have the mark of imperialism or colonialism on the life. So in the past, they used to go to visit the family, I don't know, from Damascus to Cairo. Today, you can't do it. Most of the Egyptians can't go to Lebanon and the opposite. So basically what ISIS offered them, yes, it's to come back to this Ottoman, because this is why also the Caliphate that end with the Ottoman, which is different ideas, but it's there, that it's under the law. It's the law, their law, not the Protestant law. We didn't talk about the law and God, but with the Reformation, yes, Reformation of religion, we have universal law. Yes, we have something which is universal to everyone, but it's not universal, it's Protestant. So, yeah, it's a lot of things, but what I'm trying to say, like, they're working with the system. What is interesting for me, yes, since I'm not coming from political science, yes, it's how they use images and the use of them. It compared with the knowledge that I have, how I can, you know, to break it or to understand it, the strategy and how they work. I'm coming from the Middle East, so of course it's part of, and it's part of phenomena which is bigger than ISIS. And the fight against the West, it's exactly the one that's going to the same, the Kurdish and them, two sides. They have different aim, coming to the moment that they don't want to stay with the imperial remains. They want to have their own law. And if we talk about the Messianic time or the emergency, both of them dealing with law. And the law, we can say it's the law of the state or the law of religion. We can see where people can do, or women can do abortion, where they can't, and it tells us a lot about which law. In Israel, it's supposed to be democratic, supposed to be, there is a state with a law, but people that they believe that there is a law above the law. And this will be the one that will give them the code. So then we're going back in history, in certain way, or going forward. But one of the things that is clear that the West losing the sovereignty. Europe, it's not the center. Europe was for a long time a place of development. It's not, and yeah, I don't know what will be the future. It's not for me to know, but I can see the symptom of the present. And by the way, this is a guide. This is the guide that in the text I'm talking about that know how to create the Khalifa. Ummah. It's also it's coming from Arabic. It's like the nation. Ummah. Ummah.
It's like
the nation.
nation.
Yes. We say also in Hebrew Ummah. And it's mean the nation, like the place. Yeah, this is also, it's like in certain ways how to teach art, how to teach to create an image, what is affecting image, how you create distance, what is coming up, back.
Because we're talking, also you mentioned the fact that after the Second World War we had the Soviet Union with the socialist realism. That's something that we know because we went through the story. And then we had the West and America with the abstract painting.
That was meant and was a tool. Yes, this is something we didn't mention, that art it's part of the tools of a war, of ideology. Yes,
Yeah.
sorry.
No, I was just imagining like a painting done in Albania, let's say, during the communist regime, that had to show how strong the system is, how beautiful the country is, how strong are the people, and how optimistic they are. And everything was for propaganda. And I was trying to imagine how can I compare that with Mark Rothko, or with or with minimalism, or with of course it was missing all these heroical and propaganda style, at least in the art of the experimental art of the Western countries, So can we put these things together? Can we say that to use that kind of art as an expression of freedom was maybe a kind of propaganda, but was that art made out of this idea? My father was a painter during the communist regime, and he was conscious that he was making propaganda. Was Andy Warhol or Rothko or Joseph Beuys? Because Joseph Beuys was part of that thing. He was like imagining the third way,
and the party.
Yeah, but still he was part of that thing, or Marina Abramovich, or we know a lot of names. It's not about names, but it's just, were they thinking that they were making the same propaganda against imperialism or against communism, the same as painters of socialist realism were doing?
I will answer you in phenomena. Yes, I think like the abstract American during the time was meant. If the artists know that they are manipulated, and certain artists were helped and others not, yes, to create this, to create abstract in relation to this. I don't know. This I can read, but I think some of them knew that they're working under this national idea, and they are patriots. Yes, people are patriots, and they're working with the tools. Each one bring a.
Let's not talk only about Americans. Let's talk about the West in general, right?
But if we look in general,
because we cannot escape Arte Povera from that thing,
It's true, and we can't escape when we have a regime, yes, or a governing or sovereignty that going and try to cut with human rights, try to go to the right, art become more and more important. The control on the aesthetic, it's part of the ethic. We can't put it apart. It's part of what you bring. So we can see why the Nazis certain art was could show, and I said other art it's put downstairs. You can't see them anymore. It's the generating art. Why? Because they really believe in the power of the image. Yeah. Yes, and the same we can talk about the social realism. We can talk about Russia, that people believe that this is what we encourage. But what they did, they do more posters, they do more things with the public. Today we don't see it. We see less images and we see them inside the museum. We don't see them so much communicating in this way. But the role of aesthetic was always, and we can see in many countries today, when there is escalation or the freedom, getting less and less freedom in different domains in our life, we see that art become more and more important. People will say it's because the market is strong. I think the market is strong, it's all related. The market is not strong by itself. It's not something that's not related to other markets or other ideas or why market important. So I think I will say that ideology or aesthetic and ethic are connected.
But it could be an ideology of freedom or not. Do you think that it could be an ideology of freedom?
Okay. You know, we say that Carl Schmitt, yes, don't believe in liberalism. Also, the Marxists don't believe in liberalism for the same reason, because you don't have a teeth. Yes, you can't progress. So this will be my answer.
Okay, any question? And we can stop a bit and then talk later.
Yeah, I'd be happy to have a cigarette. I prepare a lot of more material, but it's impossible, you know.
Yeah. You should come here for a week and make a whole course.
Yeah, this is a...
So next year.
So everybody, this crazy woman talking about the Messiah all the time. But I will tell you something. There is something that we see from 2008. There is the crisis, the word crisis, yes? The word crisis repeating. And with the word crisis, we start to see on the newspaper catastrophe. What does it mean that a secular newspaper open today any newspaper, big newspaper that you want, you will find on the front page at least once the word catastrophe. Where it's coming? It's related to a certain kind of way of thinking. Yes, it's not related to the secular 21st society. There is something that it's already inherent in way of thinking, of waiting for something, destroying, don't believe. I'm not a sociologist too. But I can recognize, I can see the things, I don't know why. I will go to my field to try to find out a cure or at least to understand the world.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You left a lot of questions around now.
People can ask. We can do it outside. We can sit outside. I want a cigarette.